My family sent fake CPS complaints saying I was too unstable to raise my kid. But they never thought the caseworker would reveal their lies in court. Can you imagine being 26 weeks pregnant, eagerly awaiting your first child, only to have your entire family turn against you over a baby name? This fight, this nightmare, spiraled so wildly out of control that I genuinely questioned my own sanity. Was I being unreasonable? Or had my family completely lost their minds? Hi, I'm Emily, I'm 25, and this is the story of how my baby's name broke my family. My husband, Ryan, who's 28, and I have been together for 4 years, married for 2. When we found out we were expecting a girl, we were absolutely ecstatic. We spent weeks poring over baby name books, searching online, falling in love with possibilities. Eventually, we settled on Sophia Grace. Sophia, because we both adored how classic yet modern it sounded. And Grace, a tribute to Ryan's late aunt, who'd been like a second mother to him after his parents separated. We announced the name to both our families about a month ago, and that's when everything exploded. My mother, Margaret, she's 60, and for as long as I can remember, she's been obsessed with family traditions. She comes from this huge Irish Catholic family, where names are passed down through generations like sacred relics. When we told her about Sophia Grace, her face just fell. She paused for what felt like an eternity, then asked, almost too casually, if we'd considered Eleanor, after my grandmother, who passed away 3 years ago. Now, you need to understand something about my grandmother, Eleanor. Everyone in our family speaks about her as if she were a saint. She lived to be 85, supposedly the matriarch who held everyone together. But Eleanor? She was not the wonderful grandma everyone remembers. From the time I was 7 until I was almost 16, Eleanor would babysit me and my younger brother, Liam, whenever our parents were out. And Eleanor had very strict ideas about how children should behave. If Liam or I made a single noise while she was watching TV, she would lock us in the basement pantry. Not for a few minutes. Sometimes, 4 hours. The pantry was dark, no windows, smelled like rotten vegetables, and the door was heavy, impossible to open from the inside. Liam was younger, he would cry, which would only infuriate Eleanor more when she finally let us out. During these babysitting sessions, Eleanor would often withhold food as punishment. If we asked for a snack before dinner, or didn't sit perfectly still during her soap operas, she'd send us to bed hungry. She'd then convince our parents that we had eaten enough and were just being greedy. And my parents? They always believed her. The worst part was how Eleanor spoke to us when our parents weren't around. She'd call Liam stupid because he struggled with reading. She'd tell me I was getting chubby, and that no boy would ever want to marry me if I kept eating so much. Those words. They haunted me for years. Even now, I can still hear her voice when I look in the mirror. When Eleanor got older and moved to assisted living, our family would visit every few weeks. Everyone would gush about how wonderful she was, how much they missed her. I would just sit there, silent, knowing that if I dared mention how she treated Liam and me, no one would believe me. Eleanor had cultivated this image of the ideal grandmother, baking cookies, knitting sweaters. After she died, my mother started talking about her even more. Eleanor was the center of our family, she'd say, teaching us respect and tradition. Last year, my mother even got Eleanor's name tattooed in cursive on her wrist. Every holiday, she posts pictures of Eleanor on social media, captioned with how much she misses her counsel and wisdom. So, when my mother suggested naming my baby after Eleanor, I quickly shut it down. I reminded her that Ryan and I had chosen Sophia Grace and were happy with our decision. My mother's demeanor hardened. She said it would be selfish of me not to honor Eleanor's memory. She insisted Eleanor would have wanted a great-granddaughter to carry on her name. For weeks, my mother hammered the name Eleanor. Every phone call, every text, every visit revolved around me reconsidering. She started emailing me old pictures of Eleanor with my relatives, anecdotes about how Eleanor helped her through tough times when I was a baby. My father, Charles, 56, initially stayed out of it, but eventually, he sided with my mother. He talked about respecting our elders and keeping family ties. He even reminded me that Eleanor had left me some jewelry in her will, proving how much she cared. What he didn't realize was that Eleanor left jewelry to all her granddaughters. It wasn't because we had a special bond. The situation escalated dramatically 3 weeks ago at my baby shower. My mother had planned the whole thing at our local community center. About 30 people were there, aunts, cousins, friends, even some coworkers. Everything was going great until my mother stood up to give a speech. She started by thanking everyone, expressing her excitement about being a grandmother. Then, her voice turned serious. She said she hoped everyone would join her in persuading me to consider a more traditional name for the baby. She stated that Eleanor had been such a significant part of our family, and it would be wonderful to have her name live on through her great-granddaughter. I saw people looking at me expectantly. Some of my older relatives were nodding along. My cousin Julia, 31, even chimed in. Eleanor would have loved to hear that a new baby would have her name. I stood up, my voice clear and firm. The baby's name was Sophia Grace, and Ryan and I would not be changing our minds. My mother's smile instantly vanished. She accused me of being stubborn, of being unable to consider the feelings of others. She said Eleanor had done so much for our family, and this was a simple way to honor her memory. When I reiterated that our decision was final, my mother's voice grew louder. She called me impolite and ungrateful. At this point, the entire room fell silent. My baby shower had devolved into a public argument over my grandmother's name. I saw people looking uneasy, whispering to each other. I sat back down, trying to change the subject, but my mother wasn't finished. She said we'd talk about it later, and hoped I'd calm down before the baby arrived. The rest of the shower felt weird. People were nice, but it was clear they were all talking about what had happened. Some relatives left earlier than expected, and a few people approached me privately, saying they understood, but advised me to try to work things out with your mother. Since the baby shower, things have gotten significantly worse. My mother calls me multiple times a day about the name dilemma. My father has started showing up at my house when Ryan's at work, giving me long lectures about family loyalty and traditions. My brother, Liam, has been texting me, saying I should just give in, because fighting with mom and dad isn't worth the stress while you're pregnant. My Aunt Teresa, 48, even showed up at my office last week. She caught me on my lunch break, telling me my mother was distraught over the name. She explained that Eleanor had always shown pride in me, and using her name would help keep her spirit alive. When I told Teresa about my terrible memories of Eleanor, she actually suggested I was probably misremembering things, because I was so young at the time. The most infuriating part is that none of my family members will listen when I try to explain why I don't want to use Eleanor's name. They either change the subject or suggest I focus on pleasant memories, instead of holding grudges. My 32-year-old cousin, Nathan, told me Eleanor belonged to a different generation and I shouldn't judge her by modern standards. Yesterday, my mother showed up at my doctor's appointment. She said she wanted to be there to hear the baby's heartbeat, and had brought someone significant with her. When I walked into the waiting room, Eleanor's younger sister, Beatrice, 78, was sitting with my parents. Beatrice had driven 3 hours to attend this appointment. My mother announced that she thought it would be meaningful for Beatrice to hear her great-great-niece's heartbeat, especially since the baby might be named Eleanor. Beatrice then started talking about how Eleanor had always wanted more children and would have loved to have a great-granddaughter named after her. When I repeated that the baby's name was Sophia Grace, Beatrice seemed perplexed. She said my mother had told her I was considering Eleanor as a name. My mother quickly jumped in, saying we were still discussing it, and I needed more time to think about it. I left that appointment without letting anyone hear the heartbeat. I drove straight home and called Ryan at work. When I told him what had happened, he suggested we set stricter boundaries. He even proposed we draft a letter, expressing our final choice and demanding everyone respect it. But I'm scared a letter will only make things worse. My family has made it clear this is more than just a disagreement over a name. They see it as a test of my respect for family values and traditions. I know that if I keep refusing, they'll see it as me prioritizing my own preferences over what they believe is appropriate. At the same time, I cannot bring myself to name my child after Eleanor. Every time I think about calling my baby that name, I remember being locked in that dark pantry, being told I was chubby and worthless. I don't want my child to carry the name of someone who caused me so much anguish, even if other people have fond memories of her. I'm running out of time. The baby is due in 12 weeks, and the family stress is just escalating. I don't know if I should stand firm on Sophia Grace and risk irreversibly destroying my ties with my parents and extended family, or if I should consider a compromise just to keep the peace. Has anyone else faced this kind of family pressure over baby names? How did you handle it when your family insisted on honoring someone for whom you had absolutely no fond memories? I genuinely need help, because this situation is harming both my health and my marriage, and I'm not sure what to do next. Update 1, the hospital drama 6 weeks ago. I shared my story about my family bullying me to name my daughter after my late grandmother, Eleanor, who had actually mistreated me as a child. I said I'd call her Sophia Grace instead. Many of you advised me to stand steady, so I did. I wish I could say things turned out well immediately, but they actually got much worse before they got better. I went into early labor at 35 weeks, just 2 weeks after my previous post. Ryan rushed me to the hospital, where Sophia Grace was born healthy, weighing 5 pounds, 3 ounces. For the first day, everything felt perfect. Ryan and I were exhausted but thrilled, and Sophia was doing well in the NICU as a precaution due to her early birth. On the second day, a nurse informed me that several individuals had called the hospital, inquiring about me and the baby. My mother, father, Aunt Teresa, and cousin Julia had all called. They asked about Sophia's health and visiting hours. I hadn't contacted any of them when I went into labor because I wanted to rest and bond with Sophia before dealing with family drama. That afternoon, my mother and father arrived at the hospital without warning. They had figured out which room I was in and walked right in as I was trying to breastfeed Sophia. My mother immediately rushed to Sophia's bassinet and started taking photos with her phone, gushing about how lovely her granddaughter Eleanor was. I gently corrected her, stating that the baby's name was Sophia Grace. My mother chuckled and said I'd come around once I realized how fitting the name Eleanor was for such a lovely baby. She insisted Sophia looked just like Eleanor in her baby pictures and that this was clearly meant to be. My father stood beside the entrance, almost guarding it. He said they were scared sick when they discovered I had given birth without telling them. He stated that family members should be the first to hear about these significant events, and that I had damaged their sentiments by excluding them. I asked them to leave, explaining I was exhausted and still healing. My mother declared they had driven an hour to the hospital and deserved time with their granddaughter. She then picked Sophia up from her bassinet without asking and began wandering around the room with her. When I tried to reclaim Sophia, my mother told me I was being possessive and that grandparents had rights, too. She claimed Eleanor would have wanted her to be engaged in raising her great-granddaughter, and that I couldn't keep Sophia away from family members who loved her. At this point, Ryan returned from getting coffee in the cafeteria. When he saw my mother holding Sophia and my father blocking the door, he instantly demanded they leave. He explained that we had requested privacy during our first few days as new parents and that they should respect our wishes. My mother claimed Ryan was turning me against my own family and was the reason I was being so tough about the name issue. She insisted that if Ryan truly valued family traditions, he would encourage me to honor Eleanor's memory rather than promoting his own family's names. Ryan gently but firmly took Sophia from my mother and instructed the nurse to call security. He stated that we had not invited them and that they were causing undue stress. My parents left, but not before my mother declared that this was not the end, and that they would find a way to maintain contact with their granddaughter, Eleanor, whether I liked it or not. The next day, Miss Patel, a social worker, visited my room. She explained that the hospital had received a call expressing concern about my mental health and capacity to care for Sophia. The caller claimed I was suffering from postpartum depression and had paranoid ideas about my family. Miss Patel stated that she was mandated to perform a wellness check whenever the hospital received these types of calls. She questioned me about my support structure, my mental health history, and my plans for Sophia's care following discharge. She also inquired about my family relationships and whether I was experiencing any conflicts with relatives. I informed Miss Patel about the pressure I was receiving from my family regarding Sophia's name and how they had arrived at the hospital without authorization. I emphasized that I did not have postpartum depression, but was deeply concerned about my family's behavior. Miss Patel noted that the person who contacted them had supplied precise information about my alleged mental health difficulties. They claimed I was refusing to let family members see the baby and making unreasonable judgments about her care. They also claimed my husband encouraged these habits while isolating me from those who cared about me. After speaking with me for about an hour, Miss Patel stated that she saw no signs of the difficulties highlighted during the phone call. She described me as a capable new mother dealing with normal family stress. She stated in her report that no further intervention was required. 2 days later, Sophia and I were discharged. Ryan had invited his sister, Lauren, 31, to stay with us for the first week to help with cooking and cleaning. Lauren lives 4 hours away and took time off work to be there for us. On our 3rd day home, my Aunt Teresa arrived at our door with my cousin Nathan and his wife Rachel, 27. They claimed to be concerned for me and wanted to ensure I was taking adequate care of Sophia. Teresa stated that my mother was worried since I had not returned phone calls or responded to text messages. The truth was, Ryan and I had chosen to switch off our phones for a few days to focus on getting used to life with a newborn. We were both exhausted and overwhelmed, and we didn't want to deal with family conflict as we learned how to care for Sophia. Teresa pushed past Ryan as he answered the door and entered our living room. She stated she needed to witness for herself that Sophia was healthy and well-fed. Nathan and Rachel followed her inside despite Ryan's warning that this was not an appropriate moment for visitors. Lauren was in the kitchen preparing dinner when they arrived. Teresa immediately began grilling her about her identity and why she was in our home. When Lauren explained she was Ryan's sister and was assisting us, Teresa declared that family members, not strangers, should provide support. Teresa then walked upstairs to our bedroom, where Sophia slept in her bassinet. She awoke Sophia by lifting her up and inspecting her as if she were a doctor. She commented on Sophia's gaunt appearance and inquired as to when she had last eaten. Teresa expressed concern that Sophia's hour-long meals might not be sufficient for a developing infant. Nathan took images of our house with his phone, including Sophia's nursery, our kitchen, and our living area. When Ryan inquired why he was taking photos, Nathan explained that he wanted to preserve Sophia's living conditions, in case there were any problems later regarding her care. Rachel began asking me extensive questions about my daily routine with Sophia. She wanted to know how frequently I fed her, how much I slept, and if I was taking any medications. When I inquired why she required this information, she explained that my mother was concerned about my capacity to bear the demands of parenting. After they left, Ryan and I knew that this visit was more than just a casual check-in. They had been gathering information and documenting our household conditions. Ryan summoned his sister Lauren and asked her to jot down everything that had occurred during the visit, including the questions they had posed and the images Nathan had taken. That night, Ryan's phone rang at 2 a.m. It was his mother, Linda, 58, who lives in another state. Linda stated that she had received a bizarre phone call from someone, pretending to be my mother. The caller said I was suffering from severe postpartum depression and that Ryan was encouraging my mental health issues. Linda stated that my mother had urged her to persuade Ryan to bring Sophia to live with my parents while I received appropriate treatment. My mother had expressed concern about Sophia's safety and provided papers indicating I was incapable of caring for a newborn. Linda informed Ryan that the phone call made no sense because she had been messaging with both of us daily since Sophia's birth. She said, "You two looked like normal new parents who were exhausted yet joyful. I noticed no evidence of the severe mental health issues that your mother stated." Ryan told his mother about what had happened with my family and the pressure on Sophia's name. Linda stated that she was surprised by my family's behavior and wanted to assist us in any way she could. She offered to come stay with us if we required further assistance. The next morning, we discovered that my mother had been calling Ryan's coworkers and my former coworkers. She had been informing people that I was experiencing a mental health crisis and that we required help from friends and relatives. Several people had contacted Ryan to see if there was anything they could do to aid us during this terrible time. Ryan contacted his HR department to report that someone was spreading misinformation about our family circumstances. His manager was understanding and stated that they would not take action based on the phone calls they had received. However, Ryan was concerned about how these calls might harm his professional reputation. I realized my family was running a full-blown campaign to damage my legitimacy as a mother. They weren't just pestering me for Sophia's name anymore. They were aggressively attempting to persuade others that I was mentally unwell and incapable of caring for my baby. Ryan and I decided we needed legal advice. We contacted Mr. Alvarez, a family law attorney who focuses on grandparents' rights disputes. We wanted to know what legal options my family could have and how we might protect ourselves and Sophia from future harassment. Mr. Alvarez stated that grandparents' rights regulations differ by state. But in most situations, grandparents cannot get custody or visiting rights unless they can demonstrate that the parents are unfit or that there are exceptional circumstances, such as the death of one parent. He stated that my family would require strong evidence of neglect or abuse to successfully challenge my parental rights. However, he warned us that fraudulent reports to social services could have serious consequences, even if they were proven unjustified. He suggested that we document any encounters with my family members and keep track of their attempts to interfere with our parenting decisions. We decided to issue a cease and desist letter to my parents, Teresa, and cousin Nathan. The letter indicated that they were no longer welcome in our home without an invitation and that they should refrain from contacting Ryan's family members, employers, and social services with false information about our family status. The letter also noted that we were willing to pursue a restraining order if the harassment persisted. Mr. Alvarez stated that having this letter on file would assist prove a pattern of inappropriate behavior if we needed to take additional legal action. 3 days after we sent the letter, my brother Liam called me. He said our parents were distraught by the legal letter and that they believed I was punishing them for caring about me and Sophia. He explained that they were just trying to help and that I was overreacting to their worry. Liam stated that our parents loved me and wanted to be a part of Sophia's life. He suggested that if I agreed to compromise on the name problem, everything would return to normal and we could be a happy family again. He proposed that I use Eleanor as Sophia's middle name rather than Grace. I told Liam that it wasn't only about the name anymore. I mentioned how our parents had falsely reported my mental health and had been lying to everyone in our professional and personal lives about our family circumstances. I told him that their actions had crossed a line, and I couldn't trust them around Sophia. Liam stated that he was unaware of the phone calls to social services and Ryan's employment. He said our parents had informed him that they were just concerned about me and wanted to ensure that Sophia was properly cared for. He stated that he would speak with them about backing off and giving us space. However, the next day, my mother left a voicemail on our house phone. She said the legal letter demonstrated that I was not thinking properly, and that Ryan was influencing my judgments. She stated that Eleanor would be heartbroken to learn that her great-granddaughter was being kept away from family members who loved her. She stated that they would not give up on having a relationship with their granddaughter, Eleanor, and that they would find a way to ensure Sophia was aware of her family lineage, even if I was determined to exclude them from our lives. That message made it plain that mailing the legal letter had not resolved any issues. My family remained persuaded that they were the victims in this situation, and that I was the one acting inappropriately. They were still calling Sophia the wrong name and devising methods to get into our lives. Ryan and I understood we would need more legal protection if we were to keep our family safe from the continued harassment. Update 2. The restraining order. My previous update was 3 months ago when my family was bullying us for naming our daughter Sophia and circulating false information about my mental health. Things quickly escalated after that, and I feel compelled to share what occurred in the hopes that other people dealing with family legal concerns would find it useful. Sophia and I were at a routine pediatric checkup when my mother, father, and Aunt Teresa arrived in the waiting area. They had somehow learned about the appointment and decided to go without notifying us. My mother approached me and told me that she had been thinking about all that had transpired and wanted to apologize for any misconceptions. She stated that family was more important than arguments and that she hoped we could resolve things for Sophia's sake. I was holding Sophia, trying to keep my voice down because we were in a public area with other families. I informed my mother that she could not just show up for medical appointments without authorization, and that we had requested time to straighten things out. My father stated that they had rights as grandparents and should be involved in key decisions regarding Sophia's health. He said they had experience raising children and that their advice could be beneficial to Sophia's well-being. Teresa was shooting photos of Sophia with her phone as my parents were speaking with me. When I urged her to stop, she explained that she wanted to capture Sophia's growth since they last saw her. She stated that my mother had been distraught at not being there to witness her granddaughter develop during these critical early months. The pediatrician's nurse called us back for our visit, and my family members attempted to follow us. I informed the nurse that only Ryan and I were Sophia's parents, and that the others had not been asked to the medical visit. The nurse stated that only parents could be present unless we provided written permission for others to attend. My mother thought this was ludicrous and that grandparents should automatically be informed about their granddaughter's health. She stated that she had attended medical appointments for all of her other grandchildren, and that I was being harsh in excluding her. The nurse requested my mother to wait in the lobby and offered to speak with us after the appointment if we agreed. My mother claimed she would wait, but she appeared angry at being forced to go. During Sophia's exam, the doctor, Dr. Singh, inquired about any changes in our family situation from the last visit. I informed him about my family's unwelcome visit and the constant pressure we were facing regarding Sophia's name and their role in her care. Dr. Singh revealed that he had received a phone call the week before from someone claiming to be Sophia's grandma. The caller had in-depth concerns concerning Sophia's weight gain, feeding routine, and developmental milestones. She had also inquired whether there were any reservations about Sophia's parents' capacity to give adequate care. Dr. Singh stated that he did not offer any information during the phone call due to privacy restrictions, but that he did record the call in Sophia's medical record. He stated it was unusual for family members to call a pediatrician's office without the parents' knowledge or approval. He asked if we wanted him to add a note to Sophia's file, limiting who could receive information regarding her care. We agreed and requested him to ensure that only Ryan and I could obtain medical information on Sophia or schedule appointments for her. When we left the appointment, my family was still waiting in the lobby. My mother inquired how Sophia was doing and if she was meeting all of her developmental milestones. When I mentioned that the appointment went well, she requested particular information regarding Sophia's weight and height measurements. I informed her that Sophia's medical information was private and we were not comfortable sharing it with extended family members. My father claimed that the secrecy was an indication that something was amiss, and that we were concealing issues with Sophia's health or development. Teresa stated that she had raised 5 children and could tell if Sophia was doing well simply by looking at her. She commented that Sophia appeared smaller than she should be for her age, and that we might not be feeding her properly. This conversation was taking place in front of other families with young children, and I could see them watching us. Sophia started crying, most likely because she sensed the tension in the room. I tried to calm her down while my family discussed their concerns. My mother reached for Sophia and explained that she understood how to comfort babies because she had grandchildren. When I stepped back to prevent her from taking Sophia, she accused me of being anxious and overprotective. Ryan arrived at the pediatrician's office right as this dispute was taking place. He had been parking the car and was unaware that my family was present until he walked into the foyer. When he realized what was going on, he immediately approached my family and requested them to leave us alone. My father claimed Ryan was the problem, and that he was turning me against my own kin. He stated that, before Ryan entered the picture, I had always been respectful of family bonds and traditions. He said that Ryan's influence was forcing me to be selfish and ungrateful. Ryan stated that we had requested space, and that attending medical visits violated previously set boundaries. He stated that if they continued to harass us in public areas, we would have no choice but to contact law enforcement. My mother began crying and expressed her want to be a part of her granddaughter's life. She claimed that she had been dreaming of being a grandma for years, and that I was depriving her the opportunity to develop a relationship with Sophia. Other people in the waiting room were undoubtedly seeing the situation develop. A receptionist approached and inquired whether there was an issue that needed to be resolved. Ryan explained that we were leaving, and that the others were not with us. As we proceeded near the exit, Teresa announced that they knew where we lived, and were determined to have a relationship with Eleanor. Despite our numerous corrections, she continued to use my grandmother's name for Sophia. That evening, Ryan and I called our lawyer, Mr. Alvarez, to tell him what had happened at the pediatrician's office. He stated that turning up for medical appointments could be deemed stalking or harassment, especially because we had already sent a cease and desist letter. Mr. Alvarez stated that we had sufficient data to pursue a temporary restraining order. He stated that we would have to go to court and give evidence of the harassment, such as fraudulent referrals to social services, unannounced visits to our home and business, and the confrontation at the medical appointment. He stated that if the judge issued a temporary restraining order, my family members would be legally obligated to remain away from us, our home, Sophia's daycare, our workplaces, and all medical appointments. Violation of a restraining order would result in arrest and criminal penalties. 3 days later, we applied for a restraining order against my mother, father, and Aunt Teresa. The hearing was planned for the next week. Mr. Alvarez stated that my family members would be advised of the court date and might bring their own lawyer if they wished to contest our motion. The night before the hearing, my brother Liam called me. He stated that our parents had asked him to be a character witness at the court hearing. He explained that they wanted him to testify about how lovely our family had always been and how much they adored Sophia. Liam expressed confusion regarding the legal situation because our parents had told him that we were being unreasonable. They claimed that all they wanted was a regular grandparent relationship with Sophia, and that we were using the legal system to punish them for caring too much. I told Liam everything that had transpired in the previous few months, including the fraudulent reports to social services, the harassment at Ryan's workplace, and the confrontation at Sophia's medical checkup. Liam stated that our parents had not told him about the majority of these instances. Liam stated that he did not want to take sides in a legal fight between me and my parents. He stated that he loved all of us and hoped that we could resolve our differences without the involvement of courts or attorneys. He chose not to attend the hearing as a witness for any party. At the restraining order hearing, Mr. Alvarez produced proof of my family's harassment, including phone records, text messages, photos of unannounced visits, and documentation from the hospital's social worker and pediatrician's office. He also played voicemails recorded by my mother, who used Eleanor's name for Sophia, and threatened to find ways to force a relationship. My parents went to the hearing without a lawyer. When the judge asked if they wanted to respond to our request for a restraining order, my father explained that they were simply loving grandparents who were being kept apart from their granddaughter by their daughter's domineering husband. My mother expressed concern for Sophia's well-being, citing my postpartum depression and erratic decisions. She stated that they had only notified social services because they truly feared Sophia was not receiving adequate care. The judge examined all of the material and determined that the pattern of behavior alleged in our petition constituted unambiguous harassment. She stated that grandparents do not have the authority to impose connections with grandchildren or to meddle with their parents' medical and child care decisions. The judge issued a 1-year restraining order against my mother, father, and Aunt Teresa. The injunction forbade them from contacting us directly or indirectly, visiting our homes or workplaces, attending Sophia's medical visits, or filing false reports with any government organizations. The judge also ordered my family to pay our legal bills, as she determined that their behavior was intentionally disruptive, and that they had ignored our earlier requests to respect our boundaries. Following the hearing, my mother approached me in the courthouse. A bailiff quickly intervened, reminding her that the restraining order was now in place and that she should stay away from us. My father was debating with the bailiff over whether they could speak with us one more time to tell their side of the story. Mr. Alvarez escorted us out of the courthouse via a different exit to prevent more conflict. He stated that violations of restraining orders are taken severely by law enforcement and that we should contact the police immediately if my family members attempted to make contact. 2 weeks after the restraining order was issued, we received a letter from another lawyer, representing my parents. The letter noted that they were considering launching a lawsuit for grandparents' visitation rights and that they believed the restraining order was based on incorrect information. Mr. Alvarez wrote to their lawyer, stating that any attempt to seek for visitation rights while a restraining order was in effect would be considered harassment and could result in further legal ramifications. He further stated that our documentation of their actions would be useful evidence in any future legal procedures. Since then, we have had no direct touch with my parents or Aunt Teresa. Liam still contacts me on occasion, but he says our parents are upset that Sophia has been shut off from us. He claims that they spend the majority of their time discussing how unfair the court system is, and how Ryan poisoned my mind against my own family. Sophia is already 6 months old and growing well. She is meeting all of her milestones and is a happy, healthy baby. Ryan and I have been able to focus on our new roles as parents without the continual burden of family harassment. The restraining order has 6 months left, and we intend to pursue an extension if there are any attempts to contact before it expires. Mr. Alvarez stated that the recorded history of harassment will make it simple to seek extra protection if necessary. Update 3. The Truth and Reconciliation. It's been 6 months since my previous update on the restraining order against my parents and Aunt Teresa. Sophia is now a year old, and I'd like to share how everything was eventually handled, because the issue took some truly unexpected turns. The restraining order was slated to expire in December, and Ryan and I fully intended to pursue an extension. We hadn't heard from my family since the court hearing, but Liam had mentioned that our parents were still discussing trying to see Sophia once the legal constraints lifted. Then, something happened in November that fundamentally altered the situation. Liam called and explained that he needed to tell me something crucial regarding our family. He said he had been digging through old boxes in our parents' basement, helping them organize ahead of a planned move to a smaller house. There, Liam discovered a collection of papers and documents that belonged to our grandmother, Eleanor. The box contained letters, diary entries, and even medical records that our parents had retained after Eleanor's death. Liam stated that after reviewing these records, he now understood exactly why I had such unpleasant memories of Eleanor. The documents were letters Eleanor had written to her sister, Beatrice, complaining about having to babysit Liam and me. Eleanor regarded us as difficult and pampered youngsters who required strong discipline to learn good behavior. Eleanor had written comprehensive descriptions of the punishments she imposed, such as putting us in the basement and withholding food. She described these tactics as if they were common parenting techniques that our parents were too soft to employ themselves. She lamented that our parents had spoiled us and that someone needed to teach us respect. Liam also uncovered diary entries in which Eleanor expressed her outright hatred for children in general. She said that babysitting was a hardship and that she despised having to spend her weekends dealing with ungrateful grandchildren. She described Liam and me in harsh terms, claiming that we were proof that modern parents had no idea how to raise children correctly. The most frightening records were Eleanor's notes on her contacts with the other grandchildren in our extended family. She had filed identical accusations against my cousins and mentioned employing the same punishing measures on them. Liam learned Eleanor had been systematically mistreating several children for many, many years. Liam stated that after reading these articles, he felt deeply uncomfortable about how our family depicted Eleanor as a caring grandmother. He stated that the evidence plainly demonstrated that Eleanor had been abusive, and that our parents were either unaware of it or chose to overlook it. Liam presented these documents to our parents and confronted them about Eleanor's actions. According to Liam, our mother originally attempted to defend Eleanor, claiming that the letters and diary entries had been taken out of context. She stated that Eleanor was from a different generation and that her punishment tactics were typical for the time. Our father was very upset by what Liam had discovered. He stated that he believed Eleanor was overly severe with us, but he trusted our mother's judgment in leaving us with her. He stated that if he had known about Eleanor's punishments, he would not have permitted her to babysit us. Liam stated that our parents argued for several days about the documents and their implications for our family status. Our mother was unwilling to confess that Eleanor had done anything wrong, since it would imply that her entire campaign to have Sophia named after Eleanor was based on honoring an abusive individual. Our father eventually stated that they needed to face the reality about Eleanor, and that they owed me an apology for pressing me to use her name. He remarked that if Eleanor had treated Liam and me as depicted in the documents, my refusal to honor her memory made perfect sense. 2 weeks later, Liam called to say our parents wanted to meet with Ryan and me to discuss the problem. He stated that they were prepared to accept that they had been mistaken about Eleanor, and that they wanted to apologize for all that had occurred over the previous year. Liam stated that our parents understood why we had received a restraining order and that they did not intend to challenge the legal limits. He stated that they only wanted a chance to convey what they had uncovered and see if there was any prospect of restoring our connection. Ryan and I discussed whether we should agree to meet with our parents. We were both doubtful that a single talk could repair all of the harm to our family relationships. We were also apprehensive that this could be another manipulation attempt to gain access to Sophia. We agreed to meet with our parents in a neutral venue with our lawyer, Mr. Alvarez, present. We agreed to meet at his office so that we might have legal recourse if the conversation went wrong. Liam decided to attend the meeting as a mediator, to assist everyone stay focused on resolving the concerns. At the meeting, our parents brought copies of the documents Liam discovered in Eleanor's folders. Our mother was visibly uncomfortable, but she conceded that the evidence showed Eleanor had mistreated Liam and me. She claimed that she idealized her recollections of Eleanor, and did not want to consider that her mother may have been violent. Our father apologized for his involvement in the pressure campaign over Sophia's name. He claimed that he had trusted our mother's judgment about Eleanor without personally checking the case. He explained that if he had listened to my concerns about Eleanor from the start, the entire problem may have been averted. Our mother's apology was more difficult for her to deliver. She explained that she had been so concentrated on upholding family customs that she had rejected my love for Eleanor. She claimed that discovering the records forced her to face the reality that her mother had harmed her grandchildren and failed to protect us. She also apologized for filing false reports with social services and harassing Ryan's family and our employer. She stated that she had convinced herself that we were making horrible judgments about Sophia's care, but that she now realizes she was attempting to control our parenting choices because she could not accept that we were independent adults. Mr. Alvarez inquired about our parents' expectations from this meeting and the improvements they were willing to make going ahead. Our father explained that they realized we might never want to have a close relationship with them again, but they hoped we would consider allowing supervised visits with Sophia in the future. Our mother stated that she wished to support our decision regarding Sophia's name and would stop referring to her as Eleanor. She stated she understood why the name was upsetting to me, and that she should have listened when I initially expressed my concerns about my grandma. Ryan asked our parents what they were going to do about Aunt Teresa, who had been one of the most aggressive participants in the harassing campaign. Our father explained that Teresa had been acting on information from our mother, and that they would convey the current situation to her. Our mother predicted that Teresa would struggle to accept the truth about Eleanor, because she had idealized her recollections of our grandma. She stated that they would inform Teresa that any further harassment of our family will harm her relationship with them as well. Liam suggested we take a cautious approach to restoring family bonds. He suggested that our parents send cards or letters to Sophia on holidays and birthdays without expecting an immediate reaction from us. He stated that if they could consistently respect our boundaries over time, we may consider allowing limited interaction in the future. Ryan and I agreed that we needed time to consider whether we wanted to repair connections with our parents. We stated that the restraining order would stay in effect until it expired, and that any future contact would have to adhere to tight rules that we would set. We also suggested that our parents make apologies with other family members who had been impacted by the campaign to pressure us concerning Sophia's name. When our parents asked them to pick sides in the battle, several of our relatives found themselves in uncomfortable situations. Our mother decided to contact Ryan's mother, Linda, and apologized for spreading incorrect information about my mental health. She stated that she would explain that her concerns were founded on wrong assumptions and that she apologized for bringing stress to Ryan's family. The discussion concluded with our parents agreeing to respect the remainder of the restraining order and to wait for us to contact them if we decided to try to repair our relationship. Mr. Alvarez stated that he would prepare a written agreement describing what had been discussed so that everyone understood the expectations moving ahead. Following the meeting, Ryan and I spent several weeks debating whether we should give our parents another chance. We both felt that their apologies were genuine and that discovering the truth about Eleanor had been a watershed moment for them. We agreed to allow restricted communications until the restraining order expired. We agreed that our parents could send Sophia birthday and holiday cards and call us briefly once a month. We stated that any future in-person visits would have to be scheduled in advance and would be initially overseen by Liam. When the restraining order expired in December, our parents sent Sophia a Christmas card with a simple message wishing her well and expressing their intention to be a part of her life someday. They offered a small gift but did not request a response or want to visit her. We've spoken with our parents on the phone several times in the last several months. The calls have been courteous but awkward as we all try to find out how to engage after what transpired. Our parents inquire about Sophia's progress and provide updates on their own lives, but they avoid discussing old problems. We led our parents to see Sophia for the first time since her birth in March. The visit lasted 2 hours and was held in Liam's residence with him serving as a supervisor. Our parents were visibly frightened and excited to see Sophia, but they adhered to all of the boundaries we had established, including not taking photos and not interfering with our parental decisions. Sophia is now 15 months old, walking and beginning to utter words. She was shy around our parents during the visit, which was understandable given that she had never met them before. Our parents remained patient and did not try to push interactions with her. Our relationship with our parents remains very restricted and fragile. We are starting cautiously because we do not want Sophia to be exposed to family drama if our parents resume their prior domineering behavior. The trust that was shattered during the name conflict will take years to recover, if at all. Teresa has not taken part in any of the reconciliation initiatives. According to Liam, she was really unhappy when our parents informed her of the documents they discovered concerning Eleanor. She accused our parents of violating Eleanor's memory, and she refused to accept Eleanor's mistreatment of her grandchildren. Teresa has evidently told other extended family members that our parents are lying about Eleanor to satisfy us, and that the entire family is disintegrating because people no longer respect their elders. Liam stated that Teresa's reaction has helped our parents comprehend how they were thinking about family loyalty before learning the truth about Eleanor. Looking back on the scenario, I believe the most essential lesson is that family traditions and bonds should not be sacrificed at the expense of safeguarding children from harm. My parents were so committed to upholding their romanticized image of Eleanor that they were willing to disregard my abuse allegations and punish me when I refused to honor her memory. The legal system eventually safeguarded Sophia and our family from further harassment. However, it needed tangible evidence of Eleanor's violent behavior from my parents to recognize that my views about her were justified. I wish they had listened to me from the start rather than demanding proof that my grandmother had documented her own cruelty of children. Sophia will grow up knowing her grandparents, but their connection will be different than if the disagreement had not occurred. My parents will have to earn their position in her life rather than assuming instant respect because of their familial status. The greatest positive effect is that this circumstance has strengthened my bond with Ryan and demonstrated that we can successfully safeguard our family when necessary. We learn to set boundaries, seek legal assistance when necessary, and prioritize our child's well-being over family unity. Sophia's full name is Sophia Grace, and that's what everyone calls her now. She will never have to bear the name of someone who harmed her mother. And she will grow up in a family that values her safety and well-being over traditions that are harmful. This whole ordeal, while incredibly painful, taught me so much about standing your ground for your child. Have any of you faced similar battles with family over your parenting choices? How did you navigate those waters? I'd love to hear your stories and insights in the comments below.